Now, your host, Michael Cohen, with the Capital City Recap on more compelling talk radio, 1320 WILS.
It is Thursday, and this is 1320 WILS. I'm Michael Cohen. 27 out there, slightly colder than the last couple of days, but still not too bad for February. Well, they're at it again. They're going to have yet another debate. Bernie and Hillary debating tonight, this after a town hall yesterday. Are we getting too much of these two? And what about the Republicans? Let's talk to Debbie Georgatos, political strategist. Find her at ladiescanwetalk.org. That's also the name of her book. Debbie, great to have you here.
Mike, thanks so much for having me on. Hello.
I have to admit, I have not sat and watched an entire Democratic debate yet. They just bore me. It's just that simple. What do you think? Is there anything gained by seeing these two debate again and again and again?
I cannot imagine who, as a serious Democrat primary voter, has not already made a choice. But I do think any new person tuning in, Hillary is trying to make a pitch, which is just a shocking thing, for her to have to make a pitch for younger women voters who are flocking to Bernie Sanders. This was going to be her big niche, was young women or women in general. So Hillary has a lot to do in trying to convey a message that she's a better choice for young women. So she's excited, I think, to try to get out there because I think she's going to win the nomination, but she just looks weak right now, and I'm sure she doesn't like that.
How does 74-year-old Bernie Sanders draw young women away from Hillary? How's that happen?
You know what? It's all about young women not understanding what socialism is. It's just an astonishing thing to watch because if you hear these young women flocking around the Sanders events, they have a sense of entitlement about college. I think that's almost a singular issue to them, that somehow Bernie Sanders is going to make college free, and these young people, men and women, are entitled to free college. Mm-hmm. So all these women's issues that Hillary has trumpeted over the years as the big ones, her about abortion and birth control, this is not swaying these people. I think they see those as a given, mm-hmm. and they want free stuff. It's cringeworthy. So
in terms of the whole email scandal, is that in any way playing a role in what's happening here?
My thought on that is I did see some polling about it, too. Among Democrat primary voters, only 19% of them even think Hillary might have done something wrong with the emails. But I do think it's going to hurt her in the general. And I guess I hear people pushing back against that idea, but as this unfolds and as people start to see it more clearly, not as just a push the wrong button on my computer and managed to open the wrong email account, but really endangered American security assets are CIA operatives working undercover whose real names and identity were on her email, left there for whatever it is, 2 years after she finished being Secretary of State. She's just going to look cavalier, and I still don't think in the primaries that's going to bother Democrats, but in the general, there are a lot of people who are middle swath voters who are not going to think that, who are just not going to like that, in my view.
How long is Bernie Sanders going to hang in there, per se?
Until he has no more money left. I really do think, I think he'll, seems very obvious, I guess, he will win New Hampshire. And, after that, if he can get some steam rolling, he'll stay in as long as he can, but honestly, they are struggling. He is going to be struggling beyond that because socialism beyond the college-age student people and this is not going to fly in the South among Democrat voters. So, his days are numbered as a candidate, but I think he's enjoying the ride, and I don't know when to predict exactly. But it's interesting. Your listeners may know, but not all the states have their caucus or primary for the Democrat or the Republican Party in the same day. So they have New Hampshire the same day, but then Nevada comes up for the Democrats, and I don't think he's doing very well there. I was trying to pull those numbers up before.
Well,
anyway,
he's going to be with her in Flint, in Michigan, right before our primaries. The two of them are going to debate there. I guess maybe it'll draw viewers here in the state because it's a local issue. What have you followed the Flint story and the political impact of this whole thing?
Not as close as I should have. I know there's a terrible problem in the water, and there are finger pointing going on about who is really the culprit, who should have solved it sooner.
Yeah, and then they're taking a political stance on this. They're saying this is we have a Republican governor and legislature, and obviously his administration was in charge. Do you think this will have an impact on voters, especially here in Michigan?
I will be honest with you and your listeners. I haven't read anything about that, so I'm just getting kind of a gut check reaction. If it really is true that there were obvious things that Republicans could have done, then I guess you're going to solve or prevent this problem. Then sure, I think it's going to make people mad at Republicans. But in a primary debate between Hillary and Bernie, I think they both will claim they're big environmentalists and they really care and they never would allow this to happen. Yeah. So I don't know whether it cuts in favor of Bernie or Hillary. Although I did see one of the things Bernie Sanders in a recent speech was trying to point out why he should be viewed as the more serious progressive. And he said one of the reasons was he's much more determined and committed on the environmental issues. So maybe he would try to say, this is my kind of thing. I wouldn't have allowed this to happen.
Yeah, and he's even come out now. He wants the governor here, Governor Snyder in Michigan, to resign. Talking to Debbie Georgatos, political strategist. Ladiescanwetalk.org is the website. So on the Republican side, you've got the establishment guys, Jeb Bush, Chris Christie, John Kasich, and Marco Rubio. Well, who do you see of that group potentially pulling out and kind of being a real challenger?
I think Rubio, given his I hate to give him, I think he got too much credit for the Iowa his placement in third place, but I think Marco Rubio is really on the rise. But, when you look at the polling in New Hampshire in the Republican primary, even now, I'm sorry, I'm going to switch this and get exact numbers up here. Rubio is still ahead, of any of the other. He's like at 14.3, the most recent polling. So I think Rubio, in a likability thing, I think the Iowa win is going to help him. I think he'll probably emerge as the establishment side person. Although this is a state real quickly that Bush, of all people, is up. He's at 10, where he hasn't been that in a long time in many places, and Governor Kasich is at 11.
Wow.
So
that's in New Hampshire, you're saying, or?
Yes, sir. That's in New Hampshire.
Okay, so they're actually they're in the double digits. They should be proud of that, maybe, huh?
Well, it's a funny thing. This has been a very, very unique is redundant, a unique campaign time or year in 2016 because there are actually in my view, a lot of good candidates. I think. In other years, Marco Rubio might have been a home run, but he's got challengers and he's got people, pulling away at him about his immigration views. So, but I think New Hampshire is going to be interesting for a couple of things. Yeah. Is Trump's reaction to what happened in Iowa, which is seeming to be more and more of a non-event about the whole Ben Carson thing and whether Ben Carson alluded to getting out and
whether Cruz actually committed some kind of fraud. Hey, do you think? What do you think of Donald Trump's reaction to losing in Iowa? How do you think he's handled that?
I think he gave as gracious as he is capable of being speech that night. I think he was livid. He was not his normal self. I do think that failure in Iowa to come in first really burst his bubble. I think it burst the bubble of a lot of his followers. And then I think this whole thing about Ben Carson and Ben Carson starting it by saying something to the media that was confusing or misleading, I really think the way Trump tried to play that is going to hurt him because, in fact, Ted Cruz had a funny word yesterday or today, a Trumper tantrum, just making it too big a deal, trying to make it like it was a real scandal, and it just wasn't. And I think Trump's going to be hurt by that.
And the momentum Ted Cruz has, how strong is it going into New Hampshire, and how long will it persist, do you think?
Well, I'm not sure Ted Cruz is going to do really well in New Hampshire because he does really well among the evangelicals, and that was certainly in Iowa helped him. But then we're heading into South Carolina and then all those March 1 primaries, many southern states. I think Ted Cruz can afford to have a second or third place finish in New Hampshire, and it won't hurt him.
How's he going to do down south?
Oh, I think Ted Cruz will do really well down south. Ted Cruz is, he is a Southerner. He's a conservative and a lot of evangelical voters down in the South. Like a Kasich, for example, who's really showing pretty well in New Hampshire. I cannot see him doing well beyond that. And I think it's going to come down to Trump, Rubio, and Cruz. And I think I've been saying this, and Mike, every time we talk, I think afterwards I have said I still think Trump is going to fall. I think the voters are finally going to realize he said a couple of things I liked about the border, about security and Islamic immigration, but they're seeing a blusterer as we get closer. They're going to want to see more substance. So I think Trump is going to fall. It's going to come down to kind of a Rubio, Cruz mix, and it's going down to the two of them.
Hey, do you think, because the Fox News announced that, or the Republicans, I should say, announced that there's going to be a debate in Detroit here in Michigan before the primary. It's going to be a Fox News debate with Megyn Kelly. Do you think Trump will be around at that point?
Oh, my gosh.
Deep into March?
I think Trump regrets not showing up at that one Iowa debate because of Megyn Kelly. I think he's kind of losing the media or the public perception battle about that. So I think Donald Trump will show up at a debate even if Megyn Kelly is asking questions.
He'll be there at that point. And so after the March, let's say he doesn't do well on March 1st in the Southern primaries, you're saying you think he'll continue on even if he doesn't win there?
I do. I think if Donald Trump can see a way when it gets to the GOP actual convention in July, if he can see a way that he could get to the delegates, or he can see it's going to be a convention where we enter without anyone with a clear majority, I don't think Trump will drop out until he can see there's no way I could win the nomination. Because it's all his own money. He doesn't have to explain to anybody. I think he really put his heart into this race this time.
Debbie Georgatos, political strategist, ladiescanwetalk.org, ladiescanwetalk.org. Debbie, thank you very much.
Mike, thanks for having me. I always love talking with you. Thank you.